It's day 3 and we are going to assemble our table runner. We are going to take first our holly and berry blocks. We are going to combine them into our 2 side blocks here, and then we are going to put them on either side of our wreath. Then we're going to just add our borders and our table runner is ready to go. Pay attention to the directionality. I will talk about it more in the instruction part, but there is directionality to your 3 little berry groups here when you go to add them to the holly leaves, and then also to the direction and positioning of the background fabric pieces with your holly, especially if you have directional fabric. So make sure that you pay attention, special attention to those notes in here as we go. I also have a couple of quick tips for your berries. And other than that, it's pretty straightforward assembly. I hope you are enjoying this table runner, and let's get sewing. It's final assembly. Now that we have all of our holly and berries ready to go, we are going to fully assemble our table runner. This is always my favorite part. So we are going to start with our holly. Now, if your holly fabric is directional, so mine does have a little bit of directionality to it, then you need to make a decision here on how much you care about which direction your holly leaves are pointing or not. So I decided that I wanted all of my holly, the directionality to kind of be pointing away from the berry cluster in the middle. And so I am going to go ahead and assemble mine the same direction when I go to add my background pieces here. Now, if you want to have your fabric stay directional, then you will need to do them in mirror image again. So we are going to take one 5.5 inch and one 3.5 inch piece and sew them on either side of our holly leaf. Now, again, if you are not worried about the directionality, or you're just making sure that you can assemble them all the same way, or if you are concerned about the directionality and you want your holly leaves to be facing up to the top of your table runner, then you will want to, again, do them in opposite pairs, just like this. So make sure that you are paying attention to which direction you want your holly leaf, assuming there's directionality to it. And then you're going to end up with 2 pieces that look just like this. So you can see they're lined up this way, but when I put them together onto my side piece here for my finished one, they are going to be facing opposite directions, which is what I intended for this. So that is that. Now we're going to take our holly or our berries. Now, yesterday in the live that we did, I wanted to share a quick tip with putting together your berries. If you decide to go the route that I did, where you glue the corners all down, what you can do is, instead of sewing each individual seam, you can just sew in a diamond. If I flip it over, you can see where you are starting and ending. So you're still following the corners, still lining them up with your guide on your machine, but you can do it in one round around the berry instead of individual, doing one seam, cutting it off, doing the next seam, and that. So that was just a quick tip for making those berries come together a little faster. Once you have all of your berries done, then we are going to sew our berries into 2 different groups. So one group is going to be the pair of berries together, and you are just going to line them up. Now, it's really tricky with these little tiny stitch and flip corners here. This is a lot of bulk, lots of seams going on, lots of things happening here. So what I'm going to recommend is you just do the best you can. Do your best to straighten out all of those stitch and flip corners. If you feel comfortable starching those up, go ahead and do that. What I tend to do is take this little straight cut seam of my berry fabric and line it up with that same piece on the other side, so that I kind of have a guide and I'm not quite so distracted by all of these crazy stitch and flip corners. Do your best to pull those seams out and to get a nice straight seam as well as you can. And then we're just going to sew our 1/4 inch seam across there to end up with a pair just like this. So that's what the seam, I do press the seam open on these only because, again, there is so much bulk here. I'm trying to just distribute it as much as I can. So you'll end up with pairs like this. And then you're also going to take one berry and one background square of fabric and sew those together. And again, this one's a lot simpler because you already have your straight edge. Just line them up as well as you can and then sew that seam. And then you're going to take your pairs and you're going to sew the double berry and your berry and your background piece together. If you have differentiating your berry fabrics, you may want to pay attention here. But when we go to add these to our holly, add our holly leaves to these, then you are going to want to be paying attention to the directionality here. One more tip for your berry blocks here is once you have your double berry block sewn to your berry and background block, this is a really great place to just hit that with some starch and really press those seams flat. Because there are so many seams, because there is so much bulk, that's a really great step to just give it a little quick spray and really get those down. It will make assembling it, adding it to your holly and stuff so much simpler. If you want to square it up a little bit, you can. I usually don't worry too much about it as long as I have enough for all of the seams that I'm doing. We are intentionally cutting off those points here, so you know, there's room to fix it in here. So don't worry too much about all of these corners not lining up. It all works out in the seam allowance. Just make sure that you're pressing them, do as well as you can with being accurate, be a little heavy with the starch, and it really does help to flatten that out and give you a much easier piece to work with once you've done that. So you can do it as far back as sewing on all of your stitch and flip corners. You could go ahead and give that a quick starch spray. But I usually wait till I get to this stage and get them assembled, and then I'll give that another quick spray just to help it lay a little bit flatter. We are going to take our two berry groups here, and we are going to take our two holly leaves, if I can pull them out. And again, if you are paying attention to your directionality here, you may choose to have them pointing away or pointing, if you want them to be all facing up, then you may need to cut your holly leaves so that you have some going one way and some the other way. Just, this is up to you and how much you're worried about the directionality of your fabric. So we are going to sew them on either side, but this is where you have to pay attention. You need one with the background square on the bottom right and one with the background square on the bottom left. That way your berries are the right way when you go to put them into the final table runner. So you are going to have your pairs that are going to look like this. We're going to have one with that bottom left and one with the bottom right. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our holly and berry pieces, and we are going to have our wide piece on the left on the top, and then our wide piece on the bottom on the right. And then we are going to do the same thing for the other side, but reversing that direction. So you'll see here, I have my double berries here, and let me just make sure that the pattern actually reads that way, or does. Okay, so then we want our holly leaf to be on the top. Holly leaf is over the double berry one, if that makes sense. So then on this one, we're actually going to rotate it so that we have it going this way and that way. Okay, so again, directionality matters here. You want to make sure that you are alternating things the way you want them to be, so that if you have your directional fabrics here, it lands the right way. All right, so then you are going to take your background fabric strips, and we are going to sew one on the top and one on the bottom of both of our holly berry groups here, so that they are the same height as our wreath block here. So I'm going to, I have my wreath block, and then I will have another holly berry group just like this one on the other side of it. These all get separated with more background strips here just to give them a little bit of room to breathe and to give us the length that we want for our table runner. So we are going to sew those between all of the blocks and on both ends. So it's just consistent. There's 4 of these. And then once that's done, the final step is just adding our borders to our table runner. I don't have a ton of tips for these. The only thing that I would suggest is if you are worried about how things are coming together, you can square up your blocks before you combine them. Another tip is to mark the middle of your table runner, mark the middle of your border strip, and then pin it from the middle out just so that you're not tugging and pulling things different directions. So that is another tip for getting it to lay flat. The thing that I like about smaller projects is that you really can ease in a lot of, waviness or anything like that. This is a great opportunity to just work on getting your techniques better, but small projects tend to give a lot of room for forgiveness. So that is assembling, and then I will come back later and do a quick little video showing how I set up my free motion quilting for this. And then we will do a quick binding tutorial as well tomorrow. So I hope you have been enjoying this sew along. We are so close. It really is a quick come together project, and has been a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone's table runners coming together through the week. And if you have any questions, again, don't ever hesitate to reach out. I am always happy to be here and answer any questions. If we need to pop on and I need to make another little video or something, I'm happy to do that to make sure that you feel successful and that you're not getting frustrated with any of the parts of this project. So again, there is a little bit of directionality to the holly and berry, only if you have directional fabric for your holly leaves. That is something to pay attention to. And then do make sure that you are paying attention to the orientation of your berry blocks, just to make sure that you have one with the background to the left and one with that background square to the right, so that they are mirroring each other. All right, that's it for today. I will see you later. Happy sewing, friends.